My niece and nephew are over today, so it's gonna be fun trying to record a video right now. What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Jersey Joe Show, the place where we talk about a little bit of everything, but mostly hockey. So I've been trying to get this video out for about 2 days now, since the day after the expansion draft, and it's gotten to the point where there's so many new things coming out almost every hour that it's been impossible to even sit down and try to record a video. Even now, there's trades going on with Panarin being traded for Brendan Saad. Arizona's getting Dralmason. It's incredible how many different things are going on every single minute, and I'm just trying to keep up with it all, and it's been a very difficult task. So I think what I'm going to do is just start slow and make this video on the expansion draft, go into my thoughts and feelings about that, and then have another video for all the trades that have happened yesterday and today and maybe over the next couple days. And I'm going to have a third video on the results of the entry draft that is going on tonight, and I'm a little busy this weekend, so I'm looking like maybe the start of next week. It's not going to be a week like this at all next week. There's not nearly as much going on until free agency, but I'll be on vacation during that time, so it's a bit slow content-wise next week. So I think this week had enough content to spill over into that next week, so that's what we're going to do. So like I said, I want to start talking about the expansion draft that happened a couple nights ago. The award show themselves weren't too surprising. The only thing I would probably talk about is the Norris snub for Karlsson. I don't think Brett Burns deserved it over Karlsson, but he already has two. He's probably going to be getting at least one or two more over the span of his career, and so I'm not too worried. It just doesn't make too much sense to me. And beyond that, the awards were either known or pretty much predicted. So I just want to get right into it and start talking about the first pick that Vegas had taken on the expansion draft, which was Calvin Pickard from the Colorado Avalanche, which for a number of different reasons is a very interesting pick, and one that I do want to talk about in depth a little bit. So first off, Pickard wasn't expected to be picked. He was on the unprotected list, but not many had Vegas picking him. The main prediction that people were making in mock drafts was that Vegas was going to pick 23-year-old Grigorenko, who had 23 points in 72 games last year. He's a great up-and-coming RFA from Colorado, and one that Vegas would do good with to build as part of their forward core in the next few years. But that's not what happened, and Pickard was the one that was selected. And Colorado fans, and I'm sure the management, aren't exactly too happy about this. Varlamov was injured last year. He only played 23 games, and his numbers show it. He wasn't playing 100% if at any point during the season, and Pickard came up and picked up the slack for the Colorado Avalanche last year. Yeah, it was a horrible season. His numbers are pretty terrible, but based on the situation, he was showing his prowess as the next starting goaltender for the Avalanche if Varlamov never came back from his injury. So let me just run through the numbers a bit on their stats. So last year, Pickard had a 2.98 goals against average and a 9.04 save percentage, which is, as I said, it's below average, way below average. But for the Colorado Avalanche and the team that they fielded last year, it's understandable to have those kinds of numbers. And overall, he has much better numbers at a 2.77 goals against and a .914 save percentage overall. So he's a decent goaltender, and with the right development and the right team in front of him, he can be at starting goaltender for the Colorado Avalanche that they need. And last year, Varlamov had a 3.38 goals against average. And yeah, he only played 23 games, but it's obvious he was injured. And you don't know if he's going to rebound from that. And so Colorado has to really think about their future and wonder, what are we going to do next now? What if Varlamov doesn't come back 100% healthy? What if he's never going to be healthy again? And this is the situation we're in. We don't have a starting goaltender. And add in the fact that they lost the first overall pick, and they had one of the worst seasons in franchise history, it's a bit of a tough place to be right now for the Colorado Avalanche. So the next notable pick that Vegas had made was the Devils, which really was predicted. It's not really a blockbuster pick by any means. It was John Merrill, and he was one of the three that we all pretty much figured they would pick. It was either him, Camilleri, some talk about Nosen, and a little bit talk about Bill Bennett, but we all assumed that John Merrill had that value that Vegas was going to look for him, a young and up-and-coming defenseman. It was pretty easy to see that. I'm on the fence about it. You asked me 6 months ago, and I'd be ecstatic that we kept Camilleri and we kept Bennett and we lost Merrill. But Merrill actually showed a really good upswing on his development in the later half of the season this year. When Green went down, he filled in that top pairing role. He's not going to be the next Stevens for us, but he was showing that he could be that solid second or third pairing guy that we need in our defense right now. We don't have a good blue line. I would vastly prefer to keep Merrill over Lovejoy, especially Prout. These are guys that I don't want on our team. They're old. They're not serviceable. Merrill's young. He was supposed to be a part of that defensive core a few years ago coming up with Severson and Jelena and Larson. And now the only one left is Severson, and I'm glad he was protected. I do think he's our future, offensive D-man for the number of years coming up, but it does sting a little bit to lose Merrill because we don't know what he's actually capable of now. I think he kind of broke out of his shell a bit this season, and he's gonna do great things for Vegas. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy he gets his opportunity, but I'm a little upset about it. We do have Mueller, and I'm sure Shiro saw the writing on the walls and understood that Vegas was most likely going to take one of our D-men. And with our blue line being so thin, we had to make some quick changes, and that's what we did. And we'll see what else we do out for the offseason to kind of fill in that back end for us. But so moving on, another interesting pick that I feel like flew a bit under the radar with so many other things happening, especially with Florida, which I'll talk about in a bit. But I want to talk about how Nozick was picked over Mrazek from Detroit. Now, if you were following the coverage of the expansion draft the past few days, it almost seemed that Mrazek was as surefire a pick as Fleury was for Vegas. He basically had a ton of issues with management. Management had written him off. He was left unprotected. He was arguably the second best goaltender available. I think he's better than Pickard, at least for now. Maybe not in a year or two, but for now he's a better pick over Pickard. And it just seemed like Vegas was obviously going to pick him. And they picked Nozick. And this is one I'm having a hard time understanding. Maybe they wanted to flip Nozick for a couple of picks, and he's a good forward, he's a good player. But when you're left with so few good goaltenders, I should say, not just goaltenders, but decent starting or backup goaltenders, you want to pick the best ones available. And they left one hanging on the table for Nozick. He's not anything special. He's a good, solid forward. Don't know why they just left Mrazek hanging, though. I wonder, with all the falling out that Mrazek had with Detroit, if there's going to be any issues next season with him and Howard starting the starting goaltender position, because Jimmy Howard isn't that great, but they have a ton of money invested in him. Mrazek is inconsistent, but he still shows signs of being that starting goaltender for Detroit. And so now there's a bit of a drama going on, a bit of a 1A, 1B goalie situation in Detroit, and I'm interested to see how it pans out. If anything even happens, Mrazek may just fall into a backup position. Maybe Howard falls into the backup position. One of them obviously outperforms the other, and Detroit just goes on and has a normal season. or they have an interesting situation where there's every other game they're switching goalies. I don't know, but this expansion draft made it a really interesting development for Detroit now, and we'll just get to see how it plays out. So the last surprise that I want to go over was the fiasco with Florida that happened during the expansion draft. If you weren't following, Florida sent Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith to Vegas for a 4th round pick. That was a 4th round pick for Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith. 2 top 6 forwards who should have been protected. I'm at a loss for words of what the reasoning is. So the basic consensus right now is that Riley Smith, who's getting paid $5 million for the next 5 years, it's a big $25 million contract. But it's not that he's overpaid. It's just a big contract. But he's putting up good enough numbers to command at least, $4 or $5 million. It's not completely, a huge overpayment or a terrible contract. So for Florida to just throw that out, it's looking like a salary dump. But they're not up against the cap, so I'm struggling finding the reasoning behind this. There's something going on with Florida. Ever since their playoff run 2 years ago, they've just been a flurry of administration, a flurry of coaches and players, and they didn't make the playoffs when they were thought to be up-and-coming contenders last season, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes, so we don't have the full story. None of us do, but based on what we've seen, it doesn't make any sense. First of all, Marchessault was not supposed to be taken. He was considered to be a part of the Panthers' young forward core and was going to be a part of that team for a number of years, and they left him unprotected. And I guess Vegas didn't want to pick him for another weird reason. I don't understand why they wouldn't want to pick him as their first choice. I doubt they would want Luongo. And so I assume Florida then said, hey, if you take Jonathan Marchessault, we'll give you Riley. The whole situation just doesn't make any sense to me. And just to even talk about the players themselves, they're super interesting players, especially Marchessault. So prior to this season, Marchessault had only played about 50 games in the NHL. He had 8 goals. Last year, he had 30 goals. So he went from essentially a 10-goal season, if you extrapolate it over a whole season, to a 30-goal season and 21 assists for a 51-point season over 70 games. 75% of his NHL point totals came from last season, and he's 26. So it's not like he's this young gun who just all of a sudden developed and came over that sophomore slump. No, he should be a full-fledged player right now. He shouldn't have a development curve, but he does. And maybe that's the reason Florida decided to throw him to the wind. But neither Vegas's plans or Florida's plans in this whole situation make any sense to anyone who is talking about this. No one from the media gets it. None of the fans understand it. I don't understand it. Maybe there's a trade that'll happen over the next few days, but as of now, Smith and Marchessault are Golden Knights, and Florida has a 4th round pick. I don't know. I don't get it. And so I'm running out of time here, but the last 2 picks that I want to talk about were the ones that we've known for about a year now. At least one we've known for a year. The other one we've known fairly recently, and that is the Marc-Andre Fleury and the James Neal picks by the Vegas Knights. Fleury, I talked about this in depth in my last video. It's a perfect situation for him. He doesn't have to fight for a starting position with a young, up-and-coming multiple Stanley Cup winning goalie in Matt Murray. And he can go on to be the face of a brand new franchise and be loved by a whole group of people that may not know hockey. And that's an incredible feeling that you're helping to bring hockey to people that weren't fans of it before. You're, you know, a paragon for the game, and that's fantastic. And then with James Neal, it's a bit of a different situation. He is going to be UFA next year, and he did a great thing for the Predators this season. And I hate to see it go, but I get it. They had to pick 4D and 4 forwards. There's no way they could let one of their defensemen go. The value was just sky high compared to any of their forwards, and so I get it. You got to do what you got to do, and I'm sure the Predators aren't happy about losing Neal, but they get the same defensive core that they've had the past 2 years, or the past year, and I'm sure they can fill in the gap with some young prospects or some trades over the summer. So it's not a dire situation for Nashville, and that's why I'm saying that this was kind of predicted, that Neal was the odd man out. And we'll see how he does in Vegas if he does get traded, because he is a bit older than the rest of the picks, or if he stays on as a veteran leader, maybe a captain or assistant captain along with Fleury. It's going to be an interesting team next year, that's for sure. There's a lot of interesting players now, a lot of interesting characters, some trades that are going on. I haven't checked my phone in 20 minutes, so I'm sure, 8 different blockbuster trades just happened, because that seems to be the norm these past couple of hours. And so I'll make another video if something like that happens. But as of now, Vegas, they're not going to be a contender. They may not be a bubble team, but they're going to be a hella fun team to watch next year. And I can't believe I just used the word hella, but I did. They're going to be a fun team to watch next year, and I'm just excited to see how it goes. So like I said, this was just going to be about the expansion draft picks. I'm going to have another video about the trades coming up soon, and then another video about the entry draft, and then I'm going to have to, scrape the bottom of the barrel for some content if nothing happens next week. So that's all for today, and then look forward to my next videos. Take care, guys.